Waterford Cultural Quarter and supported by Creative Ireland. We are working tonight on our media panel, and we have Tess O Reilly and Emma Nolan to join us. Unfortunately, Marty Guilfoyle can't join us due to some technical issues. But there you are, guys. Kind of, you got me now?
Hi, Ciara, how are you?
Yeah, gremlins are out to get me tonight. So how are you guys? Unfortunately, Marty can't join tonight due to some technical issues. But we're going to go ahead. It's an all-ladies panel tonight, and absolutely nothing wrong with that. So I suppose we'll get going. Guys, Emma, yourself, how did you get into radio, and what inspired you to take this career path?
Yeah, so from when I was as young as a teenager, I just adored radio. I just adored everything about it. I used to listen at home all the time, and I always thought I would just love to be able to do that. But I did kind of think, oh, that's too much of a big goal. Try and keep it to something more achievable. This was in my teenage mind. Roll on a few years, and I'm in college studying media and English, and basically a work placement came up with the 6-month work placement that you do in college. And I approached WRFM, Waterford's local radio station, and I did a 6-month work placement with Billy McCarthy, the late Billy McCarthy, the late and great Billy McCarthy, on his show Daisha AM in production. So I was with Jennifer Long, his producer, doing that, and I just fell in love with the medium and the connection it brings people, and the live nature of it at the end of the moment. Anyway, from there, it kind of all just took off, and I ended up working with Beat, who is the sister station to WRFM. They are based in the broadcast centre in Waterford City. And yeah, from there, I did the Top 7 at 7 and the Takeover for a couple of years, worked in iRadio for a couple of years, and now broadcasting in Dublin in FM 104.
And what about yourself, Tess? How did you get into it? You've had, we'll say, a varied career. You started off a model and then kind of progressed into DJing. But where did your love start, or what was your first love?
Since I was a kid, I've been obsessed with music. Like my uncle was gay in the 80s in New York, and he used to post home all the old school house tracks that were given to them outside clubs and stuff. So whenever we're driving down to see my grandmother and stuff, we'd whack it on the radio. So I was into house music and deep house since I can remember. And I got my first job working as a glass collector when I was a teenager. And when the DJ didn't come in, I'd run up and start the tracks and stuff like that. So it was always something I wanted to do, but I was always told, no, girls can't be DJs. You can't be a DJ because you're a girl. But literally, I was just no, why? Other people have done it. So I got myself a pair of decks and just did it as a hobby. But I'm too much of a perfectionist when it comes to DJing and stuff than to just go and think I was good enough to DJ in front of a crowd. So I did it for years, literally in my bedroom on a Saturday night, getting ready, just loving life, DJing to my own, and it was all my own music as well. So I didn't know people would be into it.
And Emma, what was your biggest influence? Who? Tess is saying her uncle there brought her into this kind of scene in this area. But what influenced you into getting into this career path?
Yeah, well, actually, not to try and find a quick answer, but radio itself. So I was a big radio listener, and I'm only 27. I'm not an old one, so younger people watching must think, oh, she's so old. But genuinely, when I was growing up, in my house there was there was 2 tellies, but essentially in my room I'd listen to the radio every evening, and that was before Spotify and before having really fast internet. So if you wanted to discover new music, the only place you'd get it was radio. So I think I genuinely did do my homework with the radio on. I lay in bed and I couldn't sleep with the radio on, and I was listening to Beat growing up, Beat 102, 103. And I just remember thinking, I used to consider the person that was on the air my friend, even though they didn't have a clue that I existed. And I used to just always think, isn't that so lovely that you can kind of provide that level of companionship? Is a word I use a lot, but it is very much my passion, is to allow that companionship and bring that companionship to people and that level of friendship. So I think that was always my inspiration. And I suppose those DJs I listened to growing up on Beat would have been, in that case, my inspiration. I thought I would love to be able to do that. So yeah, I hope that's not a quick answer, but I think it was radio itself that actually was the big
it's
inspiration.
perfect. I think with what you're both saying, and I've both noticed with both of you, your social media has had a huge impact on your offering. And Emma, I think over the COVID, you've been using social media in a really unique way. And Tess, your social media as well has been, it's just hilarious. Like it actually, it's so light and light-hearted. But Emma, yours has been, I think, more kind of, it's like you're saying that they feel like your best friend. You're like kind of people's best friend, like asking questions and getting people to engage with you. So Tess, I'll say this to you first. What do you think? Do you think social media is a very important part of like careers and the career you've chosen this year? And then Emma, same question to you after.
So when I lived in London and I DJed in London and then I DJed in Ibiza and everything. But when I went to LA, I realized that when people speak to you, like straight away, they kind of judge you off your Instagram, which was crazy to me. I was like, what? Like, so they would nearly want to see your Instagram before they see your work and stuff. So for that, it was like very shocking to me and stuff. So I kind of concentrated more and I used to like upload more stuff on it. But for me personally, my story is kind of who I am and stuff. I always upload like funny, silly posts. They're not always work related or music related. They're just silly memes because I like to make people laugh and stuff. And especially with what's going on now, I think sometimes you just need to wake up in the morning, open someone's story and just laugh your head off. And that's how you start your day. So that's kind of like, I don't think too deeply into it, but my social media definitely has helped me along. And I think I can thank modeling and stuff for building it up. But it flourished way more when I did my DJing and stuff. Like the different places I go to, I get like a ton of following after I've done a gig or an event. You know, people be like, "Oh, who's she?" Like, and then I can like portray like everything I'm doing. Like, I can connect my SoundCloud, everything like onto it. But yeah, it's definitely helped because it gets your name out there and it keeps you relevant when you're not doing anything. You can keep people up to what you're doing in your life, which keeps them interested in you, which keeps them interested in your music. So yeah, it definitely helps. In this day and age, you need social media. It's to keep you relevant.
And what about you, Emma? With your, I know you're also involved, like your social media is flying, but also you have your podcast as well.
Yes. So basically, when I started in radio, I'm just trying to think now off the top of my head. Like, I didn't even think Instagram was a big thing then, like in 2013. So it kind of, yeah, like I never really put huge, like, focus on it in the sense that I suppose I wouldn't be sitting there going, okay, I need to deliver content or anything like that necessarily. However, from a radio station, like as someone who works in a radio station, the radio station's account showcases so much of what's going on at the station and what's going on with the presenters. And I do love when there's an opportunity to share something that happened on the show or a video or something that brilliant that happened with a caller or something. I do love getting it up my own Instagram as well. I actually probably should do that more, to be honest. But with regards to the podcast, yes, it's amazing to have that avenue because I have no other way to promote the podcast. Apart, it's the first time I've ever done something completely on my own, if you know what I mean. So to have the only really channels to push it is my own social media channels, and I've definitely been grateful of, you know, there's much bigger followings out there. It's not like a massive following or anything, but certainly it's a great way to connect with people and to push that content out there.
And your podcast is kind of focused on, well, what I would think was kind of like, you know, up and coming emerging Irish music. What do you think of the Irish music scene at the moment?
I think it's in such a phenomenally healthy place. Out of every town, village, city in the country, there's these world-class stars appearing. Production value on their tracks is phenomenal. And, you know, the Irish music scene is such a diverse place now, with so many different types of music coming through. So there's been a lot of focus in recent years, I suppose, on the urban scene and the hip hop scene here, and it's just going from strength to strength. Looking at even Jafaris, who has a new EP coming on Friday. JLOL is releasing a new album very shortly. Mango and Matman, their album was released only in the springtime of this year, and sadly with all things COVID, you know, they haven't been able to kind of I don't think gig as much as maybe they would have liked. They normally would be all over the festival circuit in the summer and things like that. Then you've got Lyra from Cork, who's just doing so well. And yeah, the Irish music scene, I think, is in an incredibly good place. And what I love about it too is before, maybe I'm not in the music scene, so maybe it's not fair for me to say, but like years and years ago, people may have looked to the UK and America for inspiration in music, whereas now you've people coming through going, look how well Lyra's doing, look how well Soleil's doing. I wanna, look how good the Irish music scene is here. I want to get my music out there too. So yeah, I think it's certainly a very exciting time for Irish music.
Tessa, somebody has here now at the moment with lockdown and with, no clubs being open. Do you have any advice for aspiring DJs as how to get their music into clubs, or even Emma as well, you on the radio? What can people do to get, prepare for eventually when we all open back up again? What should they be doing?
It depends. So I do production. I produce music as well. So I think if you're in that side of it, really concentrate on that and use this time to make as much music as you can. And then you can hit the world with a bang when we start again. But if you're just solo DJing, it's really hard. And what I've been doing is like a few live streams and stuff, and then a few mixes for SoundCloud, just to keep people going and stuff. And when they're driving in their car, they can listen to you. But it is really hard. Like, it's literally all my friends in LA, in New York, everywhere, Ibiza, Dubai, literally they're all at a standstill. Like, everyone's just kind of twiddling their thumbs. So it is very hard at the moment. And it was such a sought after job like last year. This year it's like literally a brick wall. So it's been very hard. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it has been very hard. But if you're in music production, I would say focus on that solely at the moment and forget about trying to book gigs or worrying about anything like that, because I just decided not to plan anything for the future. I'm just going to take every day as it comes and enjoy this lockdown to kind of just chill out for a bit, because I always was pushing myself. So this has been like the first time I'm like, okay, I've got no choice. I have to chill out. So I'm doing that. Cheers.
That is a fantastic glass of wine you have. We all need one. I think it's a lockdown glass, isn't it? Like,
that is,
Emma, what
that
about
is
you?
just
That's it. Emma, what about you? I know with the radio, I think people often find it hard to get into the traditional the traditional media line to get any kind of coverage or any kind of in-rail into it. Would you have any advice for people, especially, I think, especially with the younger ones, the old people who are more established in the music industry, they know how it works. But for those younger people who are in the music industry, or the writers who are looking to get coverage for their books or stuff like that, have you any little hacks or knacks, or how should they approach you as a radio DJ to grab your attention and to get you to feature them or talk about them?
Yeah, well, in radio stations, most radio stations would have a music director. So the music director in the radio station would organise what songs get played on the station. My first piece of advice would be you'll find it very quickly on websites, as to who that person is in the radio station, and definitely make contact with them. The other thing I find that's great is you find this a lot, that you might get people sliding into your DMs online, and like, as much as you can, you have a listen, and that's great.
Yeah.
The other thing about it is most radio stations in Ireland would have specific shows, maybe even at weekends. So maybe if you're only starting out, maybe, and not in all cases, of course, it might not go straight to like a main playlist, for example, but start where you can. Say, okay, is there a specific show focusing on new music at the weekend? Who presents that show? How can I get in touch with that person? But certainly send your stuff to radio stations and fingers crossed, because like there's plenty of stations doing their very, very best to listen to as much music as they possibly can and support as much of it as they possibly can.
I have to say, the radio literally, like, I was totally bored with like trying to worry about DJing, trying to get gigs and stuff. And then one night I was sitting in my kitchen and I was listening to Beat, and it was on like a Friday or Saturday night, and I literally listening to the music got me back into the mood of doing it, and it literally gave me inspiration to get up and do a mix. So it's like you just can't give up on it. It just kind of wakes something up on you and stuff. The radio is, I find the radio in Ireland when it comes to house music and stuff is next level. Like the DJs and the producers are amazing. They literally come up with the best tracks. Like I found tracks in Ibiza and stuff, and then I come back to Ireland and be shocked that they'd heard them here. Like Ireland is really at the forefront of house music, like we always have been. I think it's brilliant.
Amazing.
People wouldn't expect it from our little towns and stuff, but it is.
It's amazing. And I think Tess as well, it's incredible to see today. There's so many people who you can get the equipment maybe a lot easier now, so that people can really practice their craft for, like, by the time that they come out with a release, like, it's incredible what they've been learning themselves from YouTube and tutorials online and things, you know.
Yeah, like I had a friend teach me, like give me a few lessons on production and stuff. And I remember the first day he gave me a few lessons, and it was like a few hours long. And I went home and I literally made an entire track the first day. Obviously it wasn't amazing, but it was still like the perfect synopsis of a track. Like I had all the elements correct and stuff. It obviously needed a lot of work. But this, if I didn't have a baby, I would literally be producing. I would come out of this with like a 20-song album. But unfortunately, I've got someone knocking on my head every morning.
Bright and early. Guys, Heather wants to know, excuse me for looking down, anybody who wants to answer, what is the best way to get into a career in radio or DJing or modeling? They're just kind of, I think people are looking for those, what I've kind of noticed over this is people are looking for those kind of, like, what like pushed you to kind of break into this? What was your little hacks that got you into the area you're now in? Do you want to answer that first?
Do you want to start, Tess? Okay.
First.
Okay, so with radio, certainly this is something that I've always said when I'm asked this, is work placement, because there's a lot of that before the gig comes along. So I think back to when I was 19, I was 20, I remember meeting someone and I got this incredible opportunity to shadow her work in the forecourts. She's a journalist for RTE News. And I remember going up to Dublin when I was 19 and going to shadow her for 3 days, and then I fell in love with that, and I'd come back and do it for 3 days, and then there was unpaid placements here. And when I went to college, I did a radio show called ULFM that had like 4 listeners, my mom, my granny, and one of my housemates from college. But like you were mentioning there, Tess, about like I'd love to have the audio from that show and listen back to it. It was far from perfect, but certainly it gave me skills, like mild skills on how to run a radio desk and things like that. So it all stood to me. So when the big first interview came for something that was full-time, it was like, oh God, look at all the little bits that you've done along the way. And this is what I always say to people: 1 week's work experience, that's on your CV forever. You can use that for as long as you need it. And it's 1 week of your life and it's on your CV forever. And they add up quite quickly. And the other thing I'll say is, let's just say your dream is to be a radio presenter. That's what you want. Don't turn your back on writing an article for the local paper. You know, like it's all networking and it's all about building connections. I worked, as I said, in a newsroom, which I thought was going to be what I wanted to do. I really did. Again, the dream was presenting, but I thought, hey, I'm really interested in current affairs. I love the broadcast world. This would be a great way to do it. And then just fell in love. Actually, it was Martin Guilfoyle who worked in Beat and kind of said, you should try do presenting and things like that. But certainly, my big advice would be work experience, and don't think that you're annoying people. If you're not getting an email reply today, try again next week, and don't be too narrow-minded about it. If it's radio presenting you want, you know, maybe writing some online blogs or things like that as well is a great way just to kind of make a start too.
And what about you, Tess?
That's good. Mine, I had kind of like, so once I got past the first gig, I basically was like forced into the first gig. I had my friends round at a house party and I was DJing and stuff, and they were like, we'd love to have you play at our club and stuff. And I was like, no way, I'm too embarrassed to do this. So once I got the first club out of the way, I thought I'm going to do like, I'm going to really test myself. So I did a few clubs in London and stuff, and then made a few connections there, and got myself a few gigs in Ibiza, because I felt like once I'd taken over Ibiza, then no one in the world can say you're a shit DJ because you played in Ibiza, and that's the toughest audience in the world. Like, because they know their music, they know you're mixing, and everyone in the audience is a bloody DJ, so they'll be coming up behind you, seeing that you're mixing properly and stuff. So mine was kind of a prove myself kind of thing. So when I went to Ibiza and I played at like what's it called, Ocean Beach, the day club and stuff, and then I did the after party, and I was only meant to DJ for an hour at the after party, but the people kept staying it, because normally they just kind of walk through at the after party, and they stayed, and they were like, no, we can't put the next DJ on, you have to stay, like, keep going. So that, all those kind of things are like things that build you up and get you a name. So you just have to know and have confidence in what you're doing, that it's going to be like good. And I would say go to places where you're going to test yourself. Like, I always put myself in situations that I'm going to be nervous and scared in, but if I achieve the goal at the other end, then I know that my career is going to go from 10 to 100 real fast. Because once I'd taken over Ibiza, I took over LA, and I took over America. So it's really scary, and literally you'll have a panic attack through the whole thing, and then after it you'll just take a sigh of relief and just be like, shit, I just really did all that. It's worth it.
And has the lockdown, I know you're home now, I don't know if you were based, were you based in LA before this, and you've only recently come home for lockdown?
Yeah, I was living in LA, Beverly Hills, darling. From Beverly Hills back to Little Hill with my parents.
A little bit different from Tipperary. Or not.
It's like, so I always used to use Ireland as my little sanction, you know. So when I did 6 months in Ibiza, I literally came back to my parents and like died on the sofa for probably 6 months. So it was kind of always the place to, the little rehabilitation I'd go back to, and then I'd go off. But so it's been like crazy for me. Like, I've just kind of had to totally readapt my life and just kind of crack on with the new. That's why I was saying, like, I wasn't really listening to music. I wasn't really doing anything for a while. And then when I listened to the radio and stuff, and it was a Friday and Saturday night, I was like, yeah, shit. Like, I need to get back, because it does something to you. Music just does something to you. It's like like literally like a Prozac. It keeps you happy.
Yeah, it does actually, doesn't it? And I think that like the radio has been a lifeline for people, like you're saying, and to like influence people back into it, and back into kind of finding their creative footing. Emma, do you find that your voice in the radio, that you have influenced a lot of people over the years, and do you have any advice for like those young people who are out there at the moment, maybe just kind of finding it a little bit tough? What should they be doing at the moment?
You mean in terms of like working in radio?
I think working in radio and kind of following their dreams like you have, like you've diversified into different areas like podcasting, you know, and your social media is flying, and you have your career. Like you both are two women who are really like operating at the top of their game. So I think, like, how do you do it? Do you have that kind of advice? What keeps you going, and what's driven you to this point? You know, some people would just kind of like be like, yeah, I've really wanted to do that. What was the thing that kept you going, you know, and got there?
Yeah, I suppose you have a fire in your belly, and I can't emphasize enough, like, the amount, like, we are all thinking about young people at the moment too, especially that class of 2020 who have come out of a leaving cert and have gone to a very strange looking first year of college. You know, genuinely thinking of those young people as well, 100%. And I know at this stage of coronavirus, we've been talking about this for so many months at this stage, but if you are watching this tonight and you are interested in a creative career, whether it's in, for example, in podcasting or in radio, maybe use this time to start your own podcast. What are your passions? For example, I'll tell you exactly how the name of my podcast came about. I knew I really wanted to do something with music, and I actually sat down, as old school as it is, from school with a little pie chart and said, right, who are you? Like, what do you want to talk about in this podcast? What's your thing? Like, because I didn't think I had a thing. So I wrote down with pen and paper, and I was like, Emma, who are you? And I was like, oh yeah, you're always the person that, you're having, people have deep and meaningful with you about certain things. You're the person having a DMC in the corner at a party with someone, and you love your music. And I was kind of writing down these few bits, and then I went, oh, okay, so a DMC, but we'll call it Deep Music Chats. We'll change the acronym as such to it is it's a DMC, but it's all about kind of the music. So use that time to figure out, like, if it's a radio job, your topics would be obviously more varied, what you're talking about every day. But if you want to do something in the podcasting world, and a podcasting world is very much kind of, people kind of want to know what they're getting from the podcast by, like, what is your podcast? Bring it home and figure out what you want to do and what you want to talk about. And there's software online that you can record. I mean, this whole period has taught us how much we can do from home. Like, I've broadcasted from my bedroom for months, and there's a brilliant online recording site called Zencaster. You could line up a guest with iPhone headphones and you could record a podcast. Get going on it. And it's amazing what you can do from home. And it's amazing, as we were chatting a few minutes ago about as well, just the amount that you can learn from a YouTube tutorial. I would really recommend to try not and be as easy as it can be right now to be demotivated. Use it to your advantage and go, okay, maybe I'll bang out a podcast in the next little while,
Yeah, absolutely. Tess, there's this question that's coming through again and again, and I have to ask it. And I think it's putting a lot of responsibility on your shoulders. Jackie wants to know, what is the future of clubbing 2020, 2021? So if you could just clear that up for us all, that'd be amazing.
I think the future is going to be me in my bedroom and you all watching me getting drunk in your bedroom. It's like, oh my God, don't, because I miss clubbing so much. I miss going out just being stupid with your friends and getting drunk, listening to music and dancing. I just miss that. Like, Jesus, let us dance. But yeah, I don't know. With DJing and stuff, it seems to be all going online at the moment, but it's just not the same. Like, I miss looking into a crowd of faces and judging what song I need to play next. What's going to keep these people going? What do they need to listen to? I just miss that vibe. And it just feels like it's been so long since we've had that. I don't know. Like, maybe I'll be asking for a radio DJ job at this time. I'll never be in a club again. No.
I'd have to be put on
after 12. I'd have to be put on after 12 at night, though, just to make sure my language is above board.
I think what we're all kind of starting to feel is that we're real social animals, and I think people are really missing that connection. And through media and music and stuff like that, we all do connect. And I know myself and yourself, Tess, were chatting about the kitchen dances, and stuff like that. And just,
that's when
really,
I discovered
really
that's when I was listening to Beat, and I was literally raving. I was like, yes, I'm back.
Beat has a lot to answer for. But where do you pull your creativity from? Like, what influences you? So Emma, who would influence you, or who would you aspire to? And like, where would you see yourself in 5 years?
Well, obviously, I'm loving my show at FM 104. I've been here now since July 2019, and I cannot believe it still feels like, in a way, it still feels like I'm a newbie, but at the same time, I said this and I mean it, that like the day I started there, I felt very at home and felt like I'd kind of always been at FM 104. I love the station, I adore the listeners, and I adore the show. So I'm very excited about progressing that and continuing that. So I'd love to see myself still in that position in 5 years' time, hopefully. And apart from that, in terms of influences, I suppose, like, the hardest thing in radio sometimes is to be 100% yourself. So a lot of the radio, like, I have to say, Irish radio in general, like, it's fantastic, and the presenters are great, and they're very much themselves, and they very much give a lot of themselves in terms of their personalities and everything. So yeah, I suppose in terms of influences, I listen to a lot of radio, a lot of Irish radio, that I really enjoy. There's breakfast shows I love the breakfast show at FM 104. I love listening to a bit of Australian radio every now and again, see what they're up to over there. And yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think in terms of if I'm ever in a bad mood. That's kind of what I'm trying to think. Like, how do you kind of switch yourself on? But the thing I remember someone saying to me years ago, if you're in a bad mood, it's not your listener's fault. It's not their problem. So don't ruin everyone's day for your bad mood. So I've always been like, there's a fine line. Like, there's obviously if you've had the worst day ever, if you woke up and you stubbed your toe and there was no toothpaste and there was no milk and your car was clamped and you're just really like, that's not their fault. It's nobody's like that's. So don't spread the negativity. But there's also no need to be fake. So you can have your little moan for 10 seconds. God almighty, what a morning I've had. Anyway, let's move on. Absolutely. Be real about it.
Yeah. People like, spread the neg either. Understand. That makes you more relatable.
Oh, totally. Like the day you come in with your soggy socks and you're whinging, like it's like everyone else's soggy socks too. It's lashing. You know.
I have to say, my first ever modelling job was for Beat FM.
Oh wow!
Oh. I did the calendar. I was Miss July.
Wow.
And it was absolutely freezing. And we took the picture in November and it was snowing and I had to stand in the water and they put it in black and white because there was ice everywhere and I had to pretend I was like so hot in the water in the sea. No. Beat FM nearly gave me pneumonia.
You're still here to tell the tale anyway, so you're okay. Where did they shoot that?
It made me stronger.
With Sarah on Vimeo wants to know, Tess, that you mentioned earlier you found it really hard to break. You found it hard to break in to dance music and DJing as a woman. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and how you overcame it?
Oh yeah, it was like when I started and stuff. I remember like the first gig went amazing and that gave me a massive confidence boost and people booked me to do gigs after that. But when I got to Ibiza, I would have like guys sabotage my set. So they would change all the settings to warp my sound and stuff when I come in. So I had to fix all the settings on the decks and stuff before I came in because they'd like literally put on effects and stuff so that what I would produce would sound like delayed and all sorts of things. Like it was wild. I found men to be more kind of bitchy towards any woman that I saw that saw me DJing was like so supportive. But a lot of guys were like really awful. It was terrible. But I just kept going. And then when I did like big gigs and you'd have like someone who represents a huge label that normally wouldn't sign women, they would come behind me in the decks and they're like, oh, you're actually mixing. You're actually doing that. I'm like, yes, I am. Stay here as long as you like and keep watching me. Like it was really like I had to prove myself and I had to be better nearly than other people just to prove myself on their level. Like it was so annoying. But once I did it, then they were all like licking my ass, so I don't care.
Fair play.
Like it's like I'll do it and I'll do it better than you, honey. Bye.
Do you feel, Emma, sometimes as a woman that you have to be better than the guy, or is radio maybe a bit different? I don't know. Do you have to be better than the guy and know your craft better? And I know we've all been subject to a bit of mansplaining. Is that does that exist in your area?
I'm very lucky to say that I have not experienced that genuinely in my job. And I certainly think that like any time that there's been like say for example when I started in 104, I felt it was on merit. Like I've never really felt tokenism as such, which is obviously really, really good. And if you look at the radio industry now and the amount of strong females who are broadcasting on various stations across the country, trust me, if you're a female watching this, by no means feel that you don't have the same shot as a guy, because you do. So go for it.
Good. Yes.
Yeah.
And
Good.
I think that like what
Things are
I'm hearing from
now.
both of you,
This is when I did it was a long time ago.
yeah,
Yes.
I think that
Yeah,
what I'm
things are
hearing from
so
both of you, you're both really genuinely yourselves. You're both just, you kind of trust in your own, you know, what you're bringing to the table and who you are and what you can do. Where do you think that confidence came from within yourself? Was there something kind of in your formative years that, you know, molded or helped, or was there a person that helped mold you to be like that? How about you, Tess? Do you want to take that one first?
Mine was basically everyone telling me I couldn't do it. So I grew up in a really, really academic family, and they'd all achieved major, like crazy things, like the highest level in physics ever in Trinity and all this stuff. So I was like, oh, great. Yeah, that's not what I want to do. But I was like always into music and wanted it, like was obsessed. And I just thought the more people were telling me I couldn't do it, the more I was like, I'm not going to swear, but effing watch me do it. And I just went on and I never saw anything as a no. I would just see, right, okay, I can't go down this path. I need to do it this way. I need to do it this way. Like I would always find a way to get where I wanted to be or achieve what I wanted to achieve. I just was relentless. And that was kind of like my drive, because when people don't believe in you and you have to believe in yourself, it just makes you like a one-man band. So you don't rely on anyone. You're just literally, you can walk into this and you just don't give a shit. Like you've got nothing to lose, but you've got everything to gain. So you throw yourself into it.
Mm-hmm.
And what about you, Emma? What? Yeah, are you the same? Did you just kind of charge through and just do what you wanted to do?
Yeah, I'm trying to think now, because like there's definitely, like, the thing about it is when you start, certainly when I started when I was like 19, I was very, very nervous, and you're nervous about every single word that you say, and you're just nervous because it's like there's people listening. It's weird, you know. And then just in time, you just find a sense of chill and confidence, and I think within a relatively short space of time, like it took a few months for me to feel like I'm really comfortable here. And you know, the hardest thing I suppose to establish when you start off is it's not like a big show. You're trying to be really natural and you're talking to a friend. That's the whole idea here, is that you are sitting down to have a conversation with one friend. You're speaking to one person all the time. And I just think it took a bit of practice, and it took definitely encouragement from my superiors at the time, from colleagues who had way more experience than me, who it might be a compliment that they pay you, that, oh, that was a really good, I really enjoyed that link or something, you know, and it makes you go, oh, right, okay, great. And suddenly you just start to find your groove, and you get feedback from your listeners, so they're in touch with you about certain things and having a laugh about something, or have maybe a serious conversation about something else, and you kind of just start to go, okay, all you're trying to establish here is a friendship, and it's working. And I think that's what kind of gives you the confidence to walk in
you're
and say,
being natural.
I'm walking
coming across.
Exactly. You're trying to almost feel like you're walking in to sit down in a coffee shop with a mate and have a chat about what's going
and
on.
just chat to your friends. I think that's what it comes across as. Like you've just got that kind of personality. That's amazing.
No, thank you.
Well
And
done.
that's so hard. We just start off and you're like, hello! Ah! And you're like, no, that's not what we want here. It's like, well, what's going on? What's happening? Anything to tell me, no? Like, and it takes a while to just feel that comfortable. And essentially you're in a room talking to yourself. But no, I do. I adore it. And I just adore and I think as well during COVID, radio has shone even further, because it's
100%,
just brought that level of companionship to people, and we've come back into people's homes as well. People that would have worked, who've been listening in work, are listening at home, and it's a privilege to be on in someone's kitchen.
Again.
Yes, well, I'm glad to hear that too. I'll make sure to pass that on to the gang and beat as well. Give you a shout out.
Yeah. Emma, there's a couple of people asking, is there
calendar?
Your July picture.
My July picture, honey.
Emma, there's a couple of people asking, is there any media trends that they should be aware of they're looking to start out in this area, and is there anything that they can kind of like see coming down the track?
Trends.
What do you mean? What do you mean media trends?
I suppose from a perspective of both your careers, what's trending at the moment? What are people looking for? What are they engaging with?
Everyone is obsessed with TikTok at the moment. Like TikTok seems to be the way to go. I did one when I was drunk and I can't remember, and the next day I was shown it. So that's my only appearance on TikTok.
Are you going to get that TikTok?
TikTok's a funny one.
Oh, he sent me the TikTok. I was like, what? When did I do that? What the hell? Okay. Jeez, that's embarrassing.
People gathering huge amounts of followers really quickly on TikTok. And there's a lot of TikTokers. And it's a shame we don't have Marty here, because he is absolutely killing it on TikTok at the moment.
Yeah,
and his music,
so he's big on TikTok, and he's like,
for his music is amazing.
Yeah.
I know all these transitions and stuff. But yeah, I think would you consider having a TikTok account, Tess? Are you going to do it? Are you going to take the dive?
Like I do, but I don't trust myself. I'm quite a wild person, so I don't know if I can be trusted. Like Snapchat was dangerous enough for me. Like Snapchat has been dangerous, because I used to literally think of my own reality TV show, going around Beverly Hills at crazy house parties, like recording. I was like, next day my cousins are like, Tess. So like, I'm not like very like PC. Do you know what I mean? So like, I was drunk and wild up in Beverly Hills. So I don't know
you for being you.
Yeah, I was being myself. Being myself.
Yeah. I think with both of you, that's what people relate to, is your honesty, and you are just who you are. Emma, what about you? Have you taken the TikTok jump yet, or will you? I know
TikTok's a funny one. I actually need to. No, you're not. And that's the thing. Nobody's too old for TikTok. I think that's how we all felt initially. I'm 27 and I thought I'm way too old for TikTok. And then now I'm like, no, everybody's welcome on TikTok. TikTok's a funny one. TikTok is definitely an amazing way to connect with people. Like you said, grow a following. The ability for reach is huge. The algorithm is something that I think a lot of digital experts have been trying to figure out now for a long time. Like, how does this work? Because, you know, for example, on Instagram, you push something into your newsfeed and it might be based on your following or the hashtags that you've used and all this kind of stuff. Whereas on TikTok, it just seems a bit of luck. But the following obviously really helps too. I'm one of these people, I always say this to my housemates actually, with TikTok, I'm either obsessed with it and go through like an intense few weeks of loving it and creating TikToks, or then I forget it exists. And I'm going through a kind of forgot it exists phase that's just kind of wrapping up. Only last week I actually made a TikTok, just something for the show, and I was like, just try it and see how you get on. Because I feel like with TikTok there's a pressure to, this has to go viral, it needs to be hilarious, the production value has to be key, it has to be a current song, and there's all, you overthink it. Whereas if it was on Instagram, I just throw up a story about something on the show and ask for a reaction to it for content for the show and get people's opinions on certain things or whatever, and you wouldn't overthink it. So I just started doing that with TikTok again. But yeah, I have the account. I'm going through phases. I actually, before we connected to this this chat this evening, because I have the ring light on for the first time in ages, because we're doing the chat here, I was like, oh yeah, check my makeup, and I was like, I might make a TikTok. But yeah, TikTok's great. I think it will stick around as well. You know, the way there's a lot of these apps that come out and then it might damage the likes of Instagram or something. No, Instagram seems to be flying it with TikTok, and TikTok seems to be flying it with Instagram.
Aren't they? They're just different things. They're like,
yes,
Instagram is,
and now
Instagram is visually pleasing. TikTok is silly videos. Like, it's just like a kind of cool collaboration. It's totally different. Like, I used to have Vine, and I was raging when Vine went. I had 500,000 views on my Vines, and then it got deleted. Like, I used to make really funny. Oh my god, I was raging. So then when TikTok came out, I was like, I'm not making one now.
As well, you'd be great on, Reels. This new edition on Instagram is great too. So if you're not into TikTok, you can pretty much do the TikTok stuff on Reels now, which is the new edition, the latest upgrade to Instagram.
Karen has just asked, like, do you for one platform or another, do you temper what you're doing on it? So say if you're doing on TikTok, is that for a particular type of like publicity, or an Instagram? Do you find that different groups of people are inhabiting different social platforms? Emma, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, like, to be honest, I haven't really thought about it that much. Like, I probably should have more of like an actual plan with it. But like when TikTok arrived, I used to just make them a few months ago, had fun with it. It's like my following is very small on TikTok. There's nothing too exciting going on over there right now, but I was very much having fun with it. I guess I haven't really overthought it that much. Like, obviously for a radio station, for example, like a much bigger platform, so like the big brand account would have different strategies, I presume, for different sites, and whether it's Instagram or TikTok or what's happening where. But to be totally honest with you, and I hope it's not a boring answer, I probably should. I guess I just don't really think about my social media like that, my personal one. I don't really have a plan.
Yeah.
If I want to make a TikTok, I'll make a TikTok. If I'm going through a phase of forgetting it exists.
Like some people market their whole social media to look a certain way, and it might not represent them, but like you probably represent yourself in your social media. You're actually yourself. You're not someone you're trying to portray. Like, you're actually yourself. That's my picture.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut across you there. Continue. Sorry.
Okay, honey. I'm good. No, I just think like my.
Saying, like, if I didn't think that. Sorry.
We're gonna fight.
Yeah.
Oh wait, is that
This is what happened. That's you.
Oh yeah. All right, you go. I'm sorry.
Okay. How dare you? I just think, Instagram. So Instagram for me started out with all my people who used to follow me modeling and stuff. So it was just pictures and stuff. But then I went through a phase of like posting all funny stuff. So they're not really the people who follow my DJing. On Facebook are the people that like mainly are in England and London and literally like Ireland. So they're kind of the ones that follow my DJing career more. But I don't know. Do you know what? I don't know, because I always think that in my head, like, oh, these people are on this and these people are on that. And then I'll turn up to a gig and someone will come up and go like, oh yeah, you've been following me for like 10 years. And then you get some like crazy people who've literally been following you for 15 years, who follow you through everything, and like they turn up at gigs. So I don't know, it just depends on what people follow you from one platform to another. It depends on them.
Yes.
Like, you can't really tell. It's a mishmash.
Certainly, I've never ever done like a personal kind of social media for my own personal accounts. No. Now, when I worked in iRadio, and I was head of the digital department there at that time, coordinating the digital content for the station. So that gave me a real insight as well, obviously, into how that would work. So for a job like that, yes, of course. But when it comes to my own social media, it's very much, if I'm feeling confident to go on camera today and something funny happens, I might go on stories, and then other times I mightn't at all. So yeah, it's probably.
I think that feels more natural to people, though.
Maybe
you're not
maybe
putting anything in anyone's face. You're just doing it as it feels natural, and it's like the less you appear, and then you appear, they're like, oh my god, we can actually see her this time.
I doubt anybody says, oh my god, when they see, maybe you now, but certainly it's like, I don't know.
No, I'm sure they do. Mine are like, my posts, if you watched my story, you would think I was like some crazy guy that just posts like random weird shit all the time. And then every now and then this weird chick with big boobs like, hey guys, how are you? Like, mine is like the most random profile. It's,
yeah. I think that, Tess, your personality really comes out through your Instagram and your personal stories.
Like, I think it was like,
Yeah, it's just it's kind of like it's like especially I think the Instagram stories is like a weird little into somebody's head that you can really see their personality, who they are, what kind of, what makes them laugh, what makes them tick, what they're watching. It gives away so much. Like, but somebody here has asked, what is the best piece of advice you've ever been given? I know that's like a tough one. For me, it was like I remember when I started working back in the arts, somebody said to me, work with the people who'll work with you. And that was definitely the best piece of advice I had been given to date. So what about you, Tess? What's the best piece of advice? Or Emma, if you have it ready to go, jump in there.
Yeah, Emma, go.
I remember, I think it was Niall Power who presents Beat Breakfast at Beat. I remember he said to me years ago when I was starting off first, when you're trying to obviously drive the desk and everything, and obviously with live radio there can be technical issues sometimes. So if you're under pressure to get something on air really quickly or whatever, turning something around really quickly, I remember him saying to me, it can sometimes be like you're a swan. So up here you're appearing all, everything's under control, it's all fine, how are you? But underneath you're flapping. Trying to get organized, and just remember the swan analogy because you're probably going to need it a lot. And I every time that happens, when you're like, oh God, I've got 20 seconds to turn this around, bish bash bash, hello, I always think I was just a swan there again, and I'm like, my heart's racing, but I love that one. It's not necessarily advice per se, but I definitely just enjoy it.
And what about you, Tess?
Do you know what? I used to like at the start, I used to just give myself advice, and it was just like to not give a shit about anyone else and like never hurt anyone, never do anything bad to anyone, but don't take to heart what anyone is saying to you and stuff. Like if people are putting you down and stuff, just rise above it and like never think that what they're saying defines you, because you can achieve your own things like no matter what you want to do. Like it doesn't matter. People can't stop you achieving what you want to achieve. Only yourself can stop you. So I think I just always, through my career, I used to always give myself like little pep talks and stuff. Literally, as I was going along, I'd be like, right, you can do this, bitch. You can fucking do this. Like, I love that. And it works. Like, it works. Like, I've had people say things to me over the years, but they've never done the things I wanted to do. And so it's never like applied to my life or anything. Like, the advice people used to give me was like, study science, do this, do that. And I love science. But that was not the career I wanted. So the advice I was getting was not focused on the careers I wanted. So I had to make up my own advice as I went along. Literally, I was my own like, right, you can do this, bitch, get up really there and do this. Yeah, you have to be your own. Like, my main thing is that not to rely on other people. When you rely on other people, everything goes tits up, or they leave you down and you feel like, oh, I can't do this now because I've been let down. Never feel like that. You're the only person that this is on your shoulders. You get up on your own shoulders and carry yourself over the finish line, and you can do it yourself.
Amen.
Like, you don't need anyone else to drag you over it. And you shouldn't want anyone else because they don't have the drive that you have. They don't want what you want. They haven't got the end goals that you have. So I think that's like I always just think like that. I just think if you want something, set your goals, crack on, don't depend on anyone else, and just be fucking driven until you get to that goal.
And when you do that test, would you actually like have a goal in mind? Like, would you be kind of like, right, this is where I'm going and I'm going to go there? Because I know sometimes myself, I would.
I was like, I think kind of quite business minded as well as musical and stuff. So when I started, I was like, right, so what logically would make sense if I wanted to really like surpass other people in DJing and really get somewhere? And the way I thought it was, make a name for yourself in London, then you can use that name in London to get gigs in Ibiza, and then you can use gigs in Ibiza to get gigs all over the world. And that's exactly what happened. Like, there's a structure to it. You have to have the talent and you have to prove yourself at each level. But once you do that, and once you've got all those things on your like resume, then you're absolutely laughing. Like, you'll walk into anything. and I've just broke a nail.
Oh no.
God
I
damn it!
lockdown when
Baz,
I couldn't even get it done.
my nails, so you're good. Baz on Vimeo has a question for both of you, and I think we've chatted for an hour, and I know we could probably just keep chatting all night. But Tess, you have a much earned night off tonight, and I know you have other commitments as well, Emma. So I'm going to end on this question, okay? So Baz on Vimeo wants to know, and this is a bit of a controversial question. So what is where I think this might be like you know, I think Baz might have kids and his parents or his kids might be saying he has bad taste in music or something, because he's like, what's the worst piece of music out now? Tess.
Baby shark, baby shark.
You know that song's after breaking the Baby Shark has just broken YouTube's record as the most.
My child is barred. My child is barred. That hasn't been played.
Yeah.
What's the new one? Is that the one where they're like this? See, my kids are older, like, so.
I know that's been around for a while now. I can't answer that, I'm afraid.
I
know you can't as a radio DJ. No, we're going to give you the option.
I'll tell you. Let me think. I can be biased because I ain't on the radio. Let me think.
Yeah, you don't have anybody.
So I don't feel like my dad does, and I think it's quite funny. My dad is always like, why are all these guys on the radio like whinging and crying and moaning about their like love lives? They're all like, she left me. Like, he feels like all guys at the moment are doing like this thing where they're like screaming and moaning about being left and they're heartbroken and stuff. He said every time I turn the radio, there's some fucking new fucker upset and crying and whinging and moaning that he's been dumped.
I suppose it makes it. What was it? What's the guy who sang that song "Ain't No Sunshine When She's Gone"? He's the guy who first started it. Oh,
yeah, but that's
I love
different.
that song.
That is an amazing voice. That's an amazing voice.
He was the first one because I think he started it because he had enough of men kind of asking guys, she left me, be like, I'm fine, I'm grand, I'm over it, you know.
Yeah.
But
amazing. Good.
Yeah, I think that's why he wrote it, because he was kind of like, he wanted to portray the name. Oh, it's so good. It's absolutely. But see, now like, I'm showing my age. I'm going way back. And guys, I think that like we're going to leave it there, and I'm going to let you off. You've been so generous with your time, and I think that like the panel, you've been amazing, and our audience tonight have absolutely loved it. CreateFest 2020 is brought to you by Waterford Cultural Quarter and Creative Ireland, and supported by Waterford City Council. Tomorrow night, we have 2 more panels for you. At 4 p.m, the theatre panel, followed by the music and entertainment panel at 7 p.m. So please be sure to join in. We'll have our few gremlins sorted out tonight. Marty, we really, really missed you, but hopefully we'll get you back at some other point. But I'd really like to thank Tess and Emma. You've been absolutely wonderful. I've enjoyed our hour together. Thank you so much, guys, and I look forward to talking again. Take care and have a good evening. Bye-bye.